We recently took our family of 4 to Disneyland, and in this video I'm going to be breaking down how much it costs us to go on this trip, additional ways that you can save on Disney expenses, and answering that question, is it worth it to take little kids to Disneyland? Hey, I'm Marissa and welcome back to my channel. Here we talk about family finance and ways you can budget, save, and make more money for your family. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any new videos. While I do love to save money, I also want to enjoy life, and you can totally do that within the context of a budget. A budget is simply a plan for your money and gives you the permission to spend. And so 4 months ago, we decided that we wanted to take our family to Disneyland, and we started budgeting and saving and planning for that trip. As I mentioned, we are a family of 4 and we have 2 little kids. We have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. Obviously, if you're a family of 4 and you have teenagers, these costs are going to be different, but this is how much we spent on our entire trip as a family of 4 with 2 small children. So we took a short trip to Disneyland. We left on a Friday, drove out there. We went to the parks Saturday and Sunday, and then we drove home on Monday. So it was a quick trip. So we spent 3 nights there and we did 2 park days. Our first expense that I'll mention is our hotel. Our hotel cost us $896.47. We stayed at the Hilton Garden Anaheim, and the reason why we decided to stay here is because it was still within walking distance to the parks. Now, it is my dream to one day stay at like the Grand Californian, but that is a bit outside of our budget. I also know that there are a lot of other cheaper options at Good Neighbor hotels nearby the park, but again, we wanted to be somewhere that was more walking distance that we could get to the park. The biggest reason for us being that we have a double stroller and 2 kids, and getting kids on and off the stroller, collapsing the stroller, taking everything out of the stroller, collapsing it, taking it onto the bus is just another thing, as well as like waiting for the bus and the bus schedule. And so we just wanted to be able to go and come as we needed. And so we decided to stay at a hotel that was within walking distance. It was about a 10-minute walk from our hotel to the park. It was not bad at all. We were able to walk back every day to go have nap time and quiet time and then go back to the park in the afternoon, so it worked out wonderfully. And we were able to just maneuver our stroller into the hotel room. We didn't even have to collapse it the entire time we were at Disney. We had a standard room at the Hilton Garden Inn, but this room actually slept 6 people. Now, like I said, there were only 4 of us, and so it had 2 queen beds, and then it had a pull-out couch. We also ended up bringing our own pack and play, and we have the slumber pod tent, which goes over the pack and play to make it like its own dark enclosed space for our toddler. So he was in that pack and play. I figured that I would sleep in the same bed with my 3-year-old in one of the queen beds, but he actually really wanted to sleep in the pull-out couch, so that's where he slept. And then my husband and I each got our own bed. We each got our own queen-size bed, so that was nice. Traveling with kids is difficult, especially when it comes to the sleep part of it, because it's a new environment, and it was kind of hard for my 3-year-old to wind down at the end of the night after an exciting day and in a new space. But for the most part, it worked, of us all sharing one hotel room. I also was able to save a little bit of money on this hotel cost because we initially booked it, and I kept watching the price to see if it was going down, and it did go down a little bit, so I was able to cancel and rebook, and at no cost, and that saved us a little bit of money. I also do have the Hilton credit card, which I used very sparingly, but will use it for a Hilton stay, so I used that card for this hotel stay as well. We did have to pay for parking at this hotel, so that was included in the hotel cost, and we did drive from Phoenix to Disneyland, and so we had to pay for valet parking at the hotel, which was kind of annoying, but we just had to pay for parking there. So the gas to get from Phoenix to Disneyland and Disneyland back to Phoenix, we spent $119.14 total on gas. We filled up right before we left to go to Disneyland, and then we filled up again in Disneyland and came back. We drive a Kia Carnival, standard gas mileage. It's like 22, 23 miles to the gallon. So it worked, and it was, yeah, like a 5.5 hour drive. We did stop halfway in like Palm Springs to stretch our legs, eat some lunch, and it was super doable. Okay, park tickets. This was another way that we were able to save, but overall for our park tickets, we spent $684 for all of us. Like I mentioned, we did 2 days in the park. They have an option to do a 1 park per day ticket option, or you can do a park hopper, which is where you can go in between parks after a certain time in the day. we decided to just do a 1 park per day option. It was cheaper, and we also, going into this with little kids, just had low expectations and didn't think that we would probably even utilize the park hopper to go in between parks. We figured we'd do 1 day at Disneyland and 1 day at California Adventure, and that would be enough for us. And honestly, that ended up being perfect. So that's exactly what we did. Saturday, we went to Disneyland. We went in the morning, we went back for a nap, we came back in the afternoon, finished off some things at Disneyland, and the next day we went to California Adventure and did the same kind of thing. I truly feel like in that time we got to experience almost everything that we wanted to do, and I feel like just the 2 days in the park with little kids was like the sweet spot of not doing too much and overwhelming ourselves, but enough that we got to experience a lot of things. So the tickets that we ended up buying were 2 adult tickets for me and my husband and 1 child ticket for my 3-year-old, and my little one was free. Disney was doing a winter promo at the time, and so at some point in January through March 10th, they had a promotion going on where kids tickets were $50 per day. So we were able to utilize that benefit for our 3-year-old's ticket, so his ticket for the 2 days total was $100. I also ended up purchasing these tickets at Target, and so I do have a Target Red Card, which saves 5%, so we were able to save that on the cost of the tickets as well. Another expense we had during this trip was Genie Plus and Lightning Lane. We spent a total of $212 on these services. If you're not familiar, Genie Plus is the old FastPass system, and this is something that I'm frustrated with Disney, that they now charge for this because it used to be free. But with Genie Plus, you pay a price per person per day, and you are able to go onto their app and select which rides you want to ride at a certain time window, and when you select that, you can then go to that ride during your certain time window, and you get to basically cut to the front of the line, which again, Disney's old FastPass system is what used to do that, and it used to be free, but now you pay an upcharge for that service. I initially didn't want to do it because it's so expensive, but honestly, I'm so glad that we did. I feel like this is just something that you're going to want to budget for when you're going on your Disney vacation, because we never waited in a line longer than 15 minutes the entire time we were at Disney. So we were able to do some rides that don't have Genie Plus associated with them, like Dumbo or some of the older Fantasyland rides, and we were able to do those while we waited for our Genie Plus time frame to be available. With having little kids, it is hard to keep them all entertained while you're in a line, so it was really nice for that line to be very quick, and like I mentioned, we were able to ride about everything we wanted to do with having 2 little kids. I also forgot to mention that I am pregnant, so I wasn't going to be doing any big rides anyway, and we just made this focus around the things that the little kids could do. But in the future, we definitely could do some bigger rides and do like a rider swap or something where my husband goes and then I go. But for this trip, it didn't make sense for us to do that. So in addition to Genie Plus, they also have an additional upcharge for 2 rides, which are Radiator Springs Racers at Disney's California Adventure and the Star Wars Rise of the Resistance ride at Disneyland. Now, each of these rides, you can pay an additional cost, more than Genie Plus, to be able to get to the front of the line for these specific rides. So we decided to do this for Radiator Springs because my 3-year-old was tall enough to ride it. He is obsessed with cars, and we know that he would love it. So he and my husband both got a Lightning Lane pass to go do this ride to get to the front of this, and I stayed behind with my toddler because I'm not able to ride being pregnant. We actually even rope dropped this ride where we waited at the entrance. We were ready to go, and everyone mobbed to Radiator Springs Racers, and by the time that we got there and the boys were getting on for their Lightning Lane, the ride was already at a 90-minute wait. So it worked for us to just pay the extra fee so that we could go about enjoying the rest of our day and not spend a ton of time waiting in a line. So $212 is what we spent in total for Genie Plus and Lightning Lane. Another little helpful hint is that you don't have to pay for Genie Plus for someone who is under the age of 3 who didn't pay for a ticket. So we only paid for Genie Plus for 3 of us, but we were able to bring our 1-year-old along with us whenever we did a Genie Plus redemption for a ride. The next thing we spent on was food. We spent $147.24 total on food. Like I mentioned, I have small children and they just don't eat a lot, so we did a lot of quick service meals. We did actually all quick service meals, and my kids just shared a kids meal at each of these places, so that was very cheap. We also brought some things from home so that we could have breakfast in our hotel room as well as snacks. So we basically only ate out for lunch and dinner both days we were in the park. But we did one specialty dining experience. We did one character breakfast Monday morning right before we hit the road to drive back to Phoenix, and that was $164.57. We decided to do the character breakfast at the Grand Californian Hotel. I hadn't ever done this before. It's called Storytellers Cafe. I previously done Goofy's Kitchen and really enjoyed that one, but we did Storytellers. It was so sweet because all of the characters came up to your table, interacted with the kids. They loved it. I feel like this was also wonderful because while we were in the parks, we didn't stand in line to meet any characters because we knew we were going to be meeting Minnie and Mickey and all the characters at our character breakfast. So we just saved that for Monday, and we got to have really special one-on-one time then. It is a buffet, so there is just a standard cost for adults as well as for kids, and my 1-year-old was also free for this as well. And they lost money on the deal because he ate so many berries at that character breakfast, so it was definitely worth it for that. But $164 is a lot for one meal. We actually were able to save 10% on this meal with our Disney Visa credit card. I will mention this later on here in the ways to save at Disney, but this was a great way to save a little extra on the expense of a character breakfast. We then spent a lot of money on toys and souvenirs. I'm not gonna lie. We spent $262.07 on toys. We bought a set of cars for the boys. They are obsessed. They love it. It's been over a month and they still play with it every single day. My 3-year-old wanted a Zurg toy, so he picked that out. My 1-year-old wanted a Slinky Dog toy. He picked that out. And then we also got the boys' bubble wands at Disney. So we spent a lot on these kinds of things, but I will also mention that our Disney Visa saved us 10% on all of the merchandise that we bought as well. So as a grand total, our entire trip cost us $2,223.42. I honestly feel like the cost wasn't very bad. And maybe even some girl math here. I feel like we saved money because we didn't have to fly. We recently moved from Portland, Oregon to Phoenix, Arizona. So if we were still in Portland, the cost of the flights for us to all get there would have been probably $1,500 or more. So for us to only have to spend $120 in gas to get there, I was very pleased with that, and that was a great way that we could make this a more affordable vacation. Okay, so let's talk about some ways to save at Disney. I know that when you're going to Disney, this is a splurge, and I want you to still be able to splurge on the things that are important to you, but maybe find ways that you can save on some other things. So here are some ideas. One thing that you can do is go off season to Disney. Like I mentioned, they were running that wintertime promotion for cheaper kids tickets, and that was something that we took advantage of. So you can be looking for that maybe for next year if they do a similar promo, and get cheaper discounted tickets during that time. Also, kids under 3 are free, which is another great thing to keep in mind. We actually went to Disneyland last April. We went just a month before my 3-year-old turned 3, and so he was still free. Both of my kids were free. We went just for the day, and we only had to pay for 2 adult tickets, and the kids were free. So if you have an almost 3-year-old, now may be a great time because they'll still enjoy it and they're going to be free. Another way to save, like I mentioned, is buying your Disney tickets at Target if you have a red card for you to automatically save 5%. You could also buy Disney gift cards at Target and save 5% as well, and you could use those gift cards to spend on food or souvenirs while you're in the park. I have done that in the past. I didn't do that for this trip. You can also check out the Disney Visa credit card. Like I mentioned, we started with this credit card and we signed up for it in maybe like February because we were anticipating this trip, and it was great for us to save 10% on character dining as well as merchandise. You can go and check out all the benefits that this card has to offer. You also earn like Disney cash back kinds of things. I'm not sure how much we've earned for that so far, but we put all of our Disney expenses on this credit card and then I paid it off in full. I only want you to use credit cards and have those benefits of it if you're going to pay it off in full every single month and not carry over a balance. There's also a card option for no annual fee, which is the one that we went with. So we just got the benefits of 10% off merchandise and some food. Another way to save on Disney is by staying off property. And like I said, it is my dream to one day stay at the Grand Californian or stay just at a Disney hotel, because I've never done that. I've been to Disneyland many times, but we've just always stayed off property, and that's okay too. If you are wanting a hotel to stay at where you can still walk, there are so many that are literally across the street from Disneyland. it'll be faster for you to walk from there than it will be the Disneyland hotel. Or you can stay somewhere a little bit further away for cheaper, and they probably have a shuttle bus system that you can pay an additional fee for to get to the parks. The Grand Californian Hotel runs over like $700 a night, where we spent a little less than $900 for a total of 3 nights. But let me tell you, it does seem very magical to stay at a Disneyland hotel. Another way to save is by bringing some snacks or breakfast with you. Like I mentioned, this was something that we did just so that we could eat in our hotel room or on the go on the way to the park. And that way we weren't having to pay additional costs of eating breakfast at the hotel or at the parks. Another way to save is by doing quick service meals during the day. And I love this option because it really helps us save time as well. So there's a couple different options for eating. You can do, like I said, the quick service or a sit-down meal. A sit-down meal is going to be much more expensive, where a quick service, you can go up to the window and order your food, or you can even do so through the app. And I love this because I was able to place the order ahead of time and then walk to wherever the quick service dining place was and go to the window and pick it up, and it was ready to go. And as you are prepping for your Disney trip, another great way to just save is to plan for this trip and save for it. So set aside money every month for the purpose of your Disney trip. That way you're preparing for this and it's not going to be a budget buster when the time comes around. So now the question, is it worth it to take little kids to Disney? I shared a reel or TikTok or even a YouTube reel or a YouTube short about our budget breakdown for this trip, and I got so many comments that were like, you spent all this money and your kids aren't even going to remember it. And that is one person's opinion, but that is truly not mine. Yes, my 1-year-old might not remember this trip, but my 3, almost 4-year-old definitely will. He even still talks about the trip that he went on for just one day to Disneyland a year ago. And you know what? We're still gonna remember it as parents. And should we not do anything for our toddlers when they're little because they're not going to remember it? So we shouldn't just do anything fun. It's special for me and my husband to have these sweet memories with our kids. And also, your kids are going to love it in the moment. Obviously, there's going to be difficulties and you have toddlers and they have meltdowns and all of those things, but to see how excited they are in the moment, like, that's still special too. If I didn't want to do anything because my kids won't remember it, I wouldn't take them to the zoo, I wouldn't take them camping, I wouldn't take them anywhere, because if there's no point in spending money on something they don't remember, then we wouldn't do anything at all. So I just think that's such a silly argument for not taking little kids to Disneyland. Another thing to make it more worth it is, like I mentioned, kids under 3 are free. So if you have a 2, almost 3-year-old and they're still under that age limit, it's super worth it for you to not have to pay for their ticket price, and they get in for free and they'll be able to still have some great memories of it if that's important to you. I would say just lower your expectations when it comes to taking kids to Disneyland. We tried to stay on more of a schedule with our boys. We ended up actually being there during daylight savings time, which was probably not the best timing on our part because we live in Arizona, so there's no daylight savings time. So we went an hour difference and then they were back on the same time zone. Anyway, we just tried to stick to the same kind of schedule of nap time and bedtime, and we tried not to overdo it. I feel like as a mom, I know when we're about at our limit, when we're at our threshold of how much we can handle. And so we were perfectly okay with leaving the parks at 6 o'clock so that we could go home and have a decent bedtime for the kids so that they could be well rested for the next day. For some people, I know that they may keep toddlers out past bedtime and stay for the fireworks, and that is awesome if that is what you want to do for your family, but you don't need to hit up the park all day long if you don't want to. We were there at rope drop, we were there early because kids wake up early, and then we just called it early every day, and we still had a wonderful time. You can also just lower your expectations and expect there to be some big feelings about other things because you have toddlers, you have small kids, and those kinds of things are going to happen. And also pack a lot of snacks because snacks help. So that is our trip wrap up of how much we spent and ways that we were able to save on our trip. And I hope that this may give you the confidence to take a Disney trip if that's something that you want to do with your little kids. So let me know if you've been to Disney before and how you like to do Disney on a budget, or if it's worth it to bring kids. And I will look forward to seeing you in my next video.